Have you ever noticed how we manage to get used to almost anything? Something that would have shocked us 10 or 15 years ago might become commonplace today. And something that seems completely absurd can end up becoming so routine that we hardly question it. This is the normalization of the absurd. And it happens gradually. At first, something strange happens, and everyone notices. People complain. They ask, how did we get to this point? Then, it happens again. And again. Over time, people stop being surprised. The absurd becomes familiar. And once something becomes familiar, we often stop questioning whether it makes sense. Think of how many things modern society accepts that aren't exactly right. Perhaps one of the clearest examples of this is the cost of living. We've reached a point where working full-time yet being unable to afford a home is no longer considered shocking. It's considered normal. Young people are told that spending half their income on rent is simply what adult life is like. Food prices rise, bills pile up, and wages barely keep pace, and instead of asking, how did we build a society where basic necessities are becoming unaffordable, we simply ask, how can I, personally, survive this? And that is where the absurd becomes truly dangerous, when we stop questioning the system and start believing that our inability to lead a normal life is, in itself, normal. And perhaps the strangest part? We don't even really consider these things strange anymore. That is the power of normalization. Human beings are incredibly adaptable. That is one of our greatest strengths, but it can also become a weakness. Because adaptation doesn't always mean improvement. Sometimes, it simply means feeling comfortable with something that shouldn't be comfortable. Imagine putting a frog in water that is slowly heating up. The temperature changes so slowly that it might not react to the shift. Regardless of whether the famous story about the frog is biologically accurate, the metaphor is powerful. If change happens gradually enough, we can adapt to conditions we would have immediately rejected had they appeared all at once. And this doesn't just happen in society. It happens in our personal lives. You accept a little more stress, then a little more, you sleep less, work more, have less time for yourself, and over time, you no longer remember what life was like before. You come to view exhaustion as normal, loneliness as normal, constant anxiety as normal. And that is when we must stop and ask. Normal according to whom? Because the fact that something is common doesn't make it healthy, being accepted doesn't make it right, and the fact that it has been going on for a long time doesn't mean it should continue. The most dangerous part of normalizing the absurd isn't that people become blind to it, but rather that they begin to defend it. That's just how life works. They say, everyone has to deal with it. You can't change the system. Stop complaining. And perhaps these statements are true at times, but at others, they are simply ways to avoid the uncomfortable realization that something has gone wrong. The absurd only becomes dangerous when we stop recognizing it as absurd. Thanks for watching.